Yo, what's going on guys? I'm Maze. And recently, episode 116 of the Pokemon Sun and Moon anime aired on TV. Well, within the episode, our best alone girl Lillie finally received a C-ring for the Icenium C she obtained back in episode 80. Which thanks to this connection between episodes, it's got me thinking more about episode 80. More specifically, the scene in which Lillie was expressing she wasn't too sure what she wants to work towards for a goal, thanks to a self-completing her old goal of trying to overcome her trauma of touching Pokemon. Ultimately then resulted in myself come up with some theories of what Lillie could possibly work towards for a goal, which as you can see, I want to share for today's video. So, with that intro now stated, let's not waste any more time and jump right into this. Let's go! For my first theory, I believe Lillie could once become one of the best Pokemon breeders ever, much like how Brock was working towards back in the day. To remind you lot what Pokemon breeders are though, breeders are people who concern themselves with raising Pokemon for health and friendship, rather for competitive stuff such as gyms and Pokemon contests. Other aspects that Pokemon breeders typically handle or cover include Pokemon healing, Pokemon grooming, and Pokemon nutrition. How all of this information relates to Lillie though, is firstly because we've seen her raise a Pokemon egg into an Alolan Vulpix, which was by her own choice by the way, despite not being able to touch any Pokemon due to her trauma. Yet, she cared for that Vulpix in an incredibly strong and beautiful way, such as providing it love, feeding it, grooming it, and even training it to learn stronger moves so it can grow up into a more confident Pokemon, instead of being a scared and insecure Pokemon. Which, that training has almost paid off. They just have a little bit more training to go, which I can assume will then lead into Vulpix accepting the Ice Stone, thus showcasing its growth perfectly. So with all of this in mind, if Lillie is so good at raising her Pokemon, and even showing so much happiness and fun doing so as well, then why not partake in this job for multiple other Pokemon? In fact, even though Lillie only has a Vulpix on hand, we have seen her care deeply for other Pokemon whilst having fun with them. Such as that one time Lillie looked after Pikachu for a Pokemon school lesson, which thanks to understanding Pikachu, she even managed to surpass her trauma to be able to touch it. She helped Ash take care of Nebby at times, but she had as much involvement as the rest of the classmates to be honest. But she even has an entire garden dedicated for wild Pokemon in her mansion, which trying to workers look after. In fact, we've seen Lillie have an entire drawer dedicated to Pokemon food for the wild Pokemon, which again breeders handle Pokemon nutrition as well. Lillie has healed Pokemon back to full health as an Ultra Guardian, which Dr. Skulls is essential. And finally, even though Magona is currently inactive, Lillie seems to be caring for it in her own time by telling it stories of her days, which is bound to fully wake this Pokemon up one day, as it's shown to almost wake up at one point. So, overall, Lillie has technically cared for other Pokemon as well, even if they don't belong to her. So, why stop now when you're showing so much interest in doing this? It's also important to note that even when Lillie was suffering her trauma of not being able to touch Pokemon, she still read books to understand how to raise and understand their moves and abilities. This ultimately preparing her for the time when she receives Vulpix's egg and hatches it as well. Which, if that doesn't show you a powerful love for Pokemon, which breeders have, then I don't know what would. So, altogether, with all of this information piled together, this role just screams Lillie to me. Hence, why I believe she will decide she wants to become a Pokemon breeder, and then work towards becoming one of the best breeders in the world, or maybe just a Lola. Moving along from breeders now though, another theory I have is that Lillie could want to become one of the best Pokemon watchers ever, much like how Tracy is working towards. To remind you lot what Pokemon watchers are, they are people who dedicate a long period of their time to observing Pokemon characteristics, behaviors, and abilities, then spending time afterwards writing research articles and reports that may be peer reviewed by Pokemon professors and later published. As a result of this, we'll just have a broad knowledge about Pokemon and can evaluate a Pokemon's health based on its diet, skin condition, and the effectiveness of their moves. So, with this job description now in mind, let me now remind you lot that we've seen Lillie observe Pokemon for multiple lessons in the Pokemon School. Episode 12 firstly coming to mind for me, in which she was shown to have fun doing this. In fact, she 90 episodes later decided she wants to observe Pokemon for her Pony Island research project. A project which she had full freedom to research whatever. So, because she chose to observe Pokemon for a Pokemon school project, obviously she's finding a lot of enjoyment with this Pokemon Watcher role. Hell, 7 episodes later, she even partaked in writes down research regarding the undiscovered Meltan species, which although she did this for another person, in this case Professor Oak, she still seemed to show interest, which is why I overall believe that she will eventually realize she wants to become a Pokemon Watcher, and then work towards becoming one of the best Pokemon Watchers ever. If you don't believe Lilie will become a breeder or watcher because other companions were working towards that, well, I now have roles to discuss which an old companion has never worked towards, which is becoming a professor or a lab researcher. Lilie essentially stepping into her father's footsteps or Professor Burnett's. Which yes, these characters are major characters in the Sun and Moon series, however, they are not classed as Ash's friends, his main group. So any of these two roles would be new to a friend of his, even though these other characters have these roles. Why I believe Lilie would want to become any of these roles though, is simply because 1. As stated in my breeder and watcher statements, Lilie loves to research, which both of these roles include, and 2. I would expect her to follow in the footsteps of her father or even a friend of hers close to her mother. And that's it. Hell, maybe she'll decide with any of these roles that she'll want to work towards it in Aether Paradise. And then eventually, she'll take over her mother's role of president in Aether Paradise, once Lusamine gets too old. Which would be, nice I guess. Talking about professors though, as we all know, Professor Kukui is not just a professor, but also a school teacher. Which because Lilie loves to learn and help others learn, I could also imagine that Lilie could realize she wants to become a school teacher, much like Professor Kukui, which certainly would fit her very well. That's what I have to say regarding that role though. But the final role I want to introduce for this video is a Pokesled player. Lilie wants to become one of the best Pokesled Jump Tournament players ever, as clearly in episode 60, she showed an interest in the sport. However, if I'm to be honest, I don't agree with this theory. This theory was actually made by fans. I just feel like Lilie competing in the tournament was a one-time only occasion. As because as seen in the episode, Lilie wants to develop and so did her Vulpix, which this tournament was a perfect excuse to do so, as Lilie was scared of height and Vulpix hadn't learned anything new recently until it learned Aurora Veil. So, yeah. But altogether, that concludes all my theories on what I believe Lilie could work towards for a goal. Though, if I'm to pick one role which I think is the most likely, I'm definitely going to have to go with both the Pokemon Breeder and Watcher role, as not only has Lilie demonstrated traits for both of those roles like I described earlier, however, I feel like she would want to travel around with Vulpix, so I don't see her wanting to stay in one place, whereas the Professor, Lab Researcher and School Teacher role would have you stay in one place, for the most part at least. So, yeah. Hell, maybe with this Breeder or Watcher role, she could travel to Kanto much like she did in the games. Though, it wouldn't be to heal Lusamine this time around. For those asking about the Z-Ring though, expecting the Z-Ring to play a role in her goal, well, I could see her using the Z-Ring to mainly help train her Pokemon to become stronger and confident in its abilities, or protect whatever land. So, the Z-Ring wouldn't be useless here. It's showing a similar role to Picola's if you think about it. But, yeah, that's all I have to say for this video. However, do let me know in the comments down below what goal you personally think Lilie will have. I'd love to hear. And if you did enjoy this discussion, then please be sure to consider leaving a like, a share, and if you're new here, a subscribe along with hitting that bell icon to stay in loop with all things Pokemon anime related. If you want to support the channel any further away, I also have a Patreon. Thank you for watching everybody. This is Entity Maze, signing out.